Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, John Jordan. So we're doing our monthly roundup looking at the most popular blockchain games. So looking at the daily active unique wallets of some of these games. Most of the data from that radar. I'll point out where some of it isn't. This is the trend we've seen really through 2024. This is the game Pixels. It is the browser-based social RPG running on the Ronin blockchain. It actually launched on Ronin back in November, so it's actually just been over a year since it went live on Ronin. It was originally on Polygon, and it's seen incredibly strong growth during that sort of year. Really volatile, but pretty strong growth, and much higher than I guess ever would have thought they were going to be. Partly that is because of the ability to get the Pixel token. Although the Pixel token price has been pretty bad actually since it went live in I think it was February it went live, but actually the price has gone down quite a lot. Nevertheless, that hasn't distracted from people really getting into the game, and Pixels has been a good sort of social community hub for many other gaming communities, particularly YGG, the guild, and Mockaverse, the sort of Animoca's sort of ID, meme, coin, or whatever you want to look at it as. Anyway, in terms of Pixels, we see very strong growth for the first sort of half of the year, up to over 1 million wallets. Came down again, went back up again. So that's really the first sort of half of the year. We see very strong growth for Pixels, up and down. Obviously, one of the issues there with all blockchain games is how sort of active and useful are those wallets in terms of, are they playing the game to play the game? Are they investing in the game? Are they just playing the game to get tokens out they can sell? So in a sense, I guess that's probably no different to even Web 2 games where people are playing. So there are some very committed people and some very non-committed people. I guess the difference with blockchain games is obviously you can create financial value in them. So that creates a different layer of why people would want to play a game. The big change for Pixels happened in June when they changed their reward system. So really their philosophy throughout the whole year has been they only want to give their Pixel token rewards to people who are really committed to the game, who are playing the game a lot, doing quite advanced things, crafting in the game. They don't just want to give it to people who just sort of rock in and sort of press a button and then go away again. So you see this first big drop off of users for Pixels when they change the reward structure to make it more focused towards what they think are their committed players. It goes down to as low as 250,000 daily active unique wallets, comes back up again. So we assume this big break happens when a lot of the sort of bots, the things they're doing, no longer even work potentially. But certainly are not so valuable, and that may be for extractive players as well. So we have a whole sort of stamping down here. It sort of builds back up again to 750,000 in sort of late summer. Again, it's come down since sort of into September and October. It's come down again, not quite as dramatically, but over time it's sort of dropped back down as I guess you get churn on the game. People stop playing a game after a while. So we're looking here over 10 months worth of play. There's not many people who necessarily will log into a game every day for 10 months. So we see sort of some decline here for various reasons. It picks back up again to 500,000. For the last few days of October, it's dropped down back to sort of 250,000. So that's the the sort of headline for Pixels. And as the Pixels CEO Luke Barwikowski has pointed out, they don't really care so much about active wallets. They think their DAUs, which is a sort of probably slightly different metric to this, is sort of fairly steady. But for them, they're thinking about, as I say, how they reward their most committed players and how they make money. So they're thinking about, in most games, obviously people just pay money to get in-app purchases or whatever because they enjoy playing the game. A bit more complicated in blockchain games. People might be buying things in the game as a sort of investment, or that may be a thought behind why they're doing things in the game. So he's, I think, over 2024, the Pixels team has progressively cared less about their user numbers and more about the sort of economic exchange between them. The interesting thing that happened in October was the launch of Off the Grid. So Off the Grid is the first blockchain-enabled game on console. It's a sort of battle royale shooter. The first mode that went live is an extraction, sort of team-based extraction shooter. And it's been pretty successful. We can see the red dots there. There's a bit of uncertainty around the data. So this is actually not that Radar's data, which is much lower. This is from Flipside. We haven't got an official confirmation yet from Gunzilla about what they think their numbers are, what they're quoting their numbers as. But it's a little bit as actually with Pixels that this is sort of raw active wallets, which may be not the definitely not the only way of looking at sort of active players. So there's another metric which is sender wallets, and that may be people who are sort of doing something in the game rather than just people who are sort of logging into the game. Anyway, we'll look at that over the coming months. But we can definitely see Off the Grid, has if it hasn't beaten the sort of very peak days of Pixels, it's been pretty close to 1 million active wallets on its peak day, and is generally now about 500,000 wallets active every day. So that would either Pixels, as I say, has dropped back down to 250,000. It'll probably come back up again a bit. So we'll see where we end up in November. But probably Off the Grid and Pixels are going to be roughly the same, I would imagine. Maybe Off the Grid depends how well it sustains its audience over the coming months. There's a lot more of that game to go live, different modes. There's a single player mode also coming out. So we'll sort of wait to see. I think Off the Grid could go higher. But obviously, what you're trying to look for in any game, and particularly blockchain game, is sort of the sustained number that a game manages to achieve. So we'll look at that. But at the moment, Off the Grid, I would say, is sort of taken over from Pixels, partly because Pixels has dropped down again. So we'll see how that plays out for the last 2 months of the year. Looking at other games, so look back here. So remember, this vertical scale is daily active unique wallets. So it's peaking here at 1 million. So this is the vertical scale. When we look at these other graphs, the scale is much smaller. So here's some various other blockchain games, as I call them. So this peak here is 100,000 daily active unique wallets, so a tenth of what we're looking at in this graph. So the graph we're looking at is basically, if it was on this graph, which I didn't do because it gets too complicated, is basically this amount of vertical space. So obviously a tenth of the other graph. So these games are much smaller, much more what we might call niche blockchain games. But I've played all of these and still play the majority of them fairly regularly. So I think these can be said to be fairly good sort of game experiences. Use blockchain in different ways, but that's what's happening. So this again is 2024, and we can see some games have grown, some games have declined. The biggest two here are Nine Chronicles, which is a sort of idle RPG. And Alien Worlds, which is a sort of fully on-chain sort of mining game with some very strong community elements. So these are not massive games. Alien Worlds has grown sort of the least, so it has grown a little bit over time. And Nine Chronicles has grown more. It released a mobile version. So it was originally a PC version. It released its mobile version actually also in the end of November. So it's seen pretty strong growth from that. It's come down a little bit. But these games are roughly around 100,000 daily active unique wallets, and they're sort of games where you would be designed to sort of come back in every day just to log in and play a little bit. Then they're sort of more idle, as I say, idle sort of base games rather than you're coming in and playing a 3-hour session. Just sort of much more just coming in and doing some moves, getting some rewards. So they're quite akin to they fit quite well into blockchain item ownership. Uplands has been around for quite a few years. It is a mobile and PC game now, mainly mobile. It's been very steady, slight decline from a much smaller basis. It has been as high as sort of 70,000 daily active unique wallets last year. So they're sort of trying to deal with their sort of decline, I suppose, at the moment. Say down slightly. Nightcrows is an interesting game from WeMix, or We Made is the publisher. WeMix is their blockchain platform. It is a big mobile PC RPG, MMORPG. What we're looking at here is the blockchain interactions. So they have about 200,000 daily active unique players, and obviously, so we can see the blockchain element of those is fairly small. Although in this case, we have some peaks over 50,000 wallets, which would be 25% of the player base. you can't really do a lot of the blockchain stuff really until you get to level 45, which really takes a long time. I'm on level 42 still, and I pretty much play every day. So that may be a sort of barrier to more people getting involved with blockchain in Nightcrows. And we can see normally, apart from these peaks, normally it's down more about sort of 20,000, 10,000. So maybe like 5% of the audience really. We'll sort of see over time, but it's a sort of it's more like a game with blockchain elements rather than a blockchain game, I guess you could put it as. And Guild of Guardians, so that was from the big game from Immutable. It actually launched sort of okay, did about 15,000 daily active unique wallets at peak. It's come down considerably to about under 4,000 now. Again, it's a game where you don't really interact with the blockchain on a daily basis, so you would interact with the blockchain, obviously, if you're trading characters and if you're leveling characters up. Really, those are the two sort of key blockchain-enabled parts of the game. The Guardian sort of characters are NFTs on the Immutable blockchain, so anything involving them is going to trigger is going to trigger you being an active wallet. So again, I don't think there's tons of people playing it. There's no figures given in terms of monthly players. I imagine about 100,000, maybe something like that. Maybe roughly 100,000. So, but we can definitely see over time there's less blockchain interaction. But it's not. It's not a game where you would necessarily be hitting the blockchain every day. But yeah, it has declined. It's quite small. So the other graph, the other ecosystem I look at a lot have been looking at a lot this year is the Ronin blockchain. And the Ronin blockchain, I've not put pixels on this because it has its own graph. Again, this vertical scale goes up to 150,000, so a little bit more than the previous one, but still, obviously, pixels would be miles off the scale on this graph. But Ronin is the sort of a gaming blockchain that has been gaining momentum throughout the year in terms of games. Its announces are coming to Ronin, and also some games which are building audiences, having some fairly strong growth. So in fact, all the games here have seen sort of quite strong growth during the year. Axie Infinity obviously been around for a while. Started the year off pretty low, sort of 20,000, and it's come up to about 100,000. This is partly because they're giving away a lot of the AXS token. They're incentivizing people to play the game, which is sort of what you can do, I suppose, in blockchain. Obviously, much lower numbers than were at a peak. It had like 3 million users, I think, in 2021. But this is, obviously very different times now. So 100,000, I think, if you have a blockchain game with 100,000 daily active unique wallets, I think that's pretty good. So Axie is there roundabout. Aperon is now sort of having peaks over 150,000. Again, I don't think this is the game is live on PC, or one mode of the game is live. I'm not sure that's. I think this is more to do with a sort of token interaction rather than the game, as far as I understand it at the moment. So we have to sometimes be a little bit careful in terms of how someone will be interacting with the blockchain. The interesting two, I guess, more recently are Wild Forest and the Machine Arena. So Wild Forest is a PC mobile strategy game. It's pretty good if you like that sort of thing. It's seemed quite strong. So some days over 150,000 daily active unique wallets. Partly that's because its token's going live. So there's been a lot of excitement about the token going live, and obviously that drives audience who are sort of maybe you're definitely playing the game to get more tokens. As ever, we always have to see what happens when the token sort of is released and people can sell it, and they don't sort of get this sort of airdrop freebie thing. But I think it's a pretty solid game, so it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. And also Machine Arena, that's been out for a while on PC, but now they've sort of started doing more around sort of token airdrops. So the game's been live for a long time, but the tokens haven't been live. So again, you're starting to see it's quite volatile, as you can see, up or down. This is a sort of top-down sort of arena shooter, sort of with the esports sort of element. Again, it's got to not every day over 100,000, but some days over 100,000. Again, as I say, with all these games, their activity is being juiced by giving away free tokens. So as we'll see with sort of pixels, that can work for a certain period of time, but over time you sort of need to work out who you want to give tokens to, not just give them away to everyone. And these games are sort of currently in the situation of giving them away kind of to everyone because they want to show growth. At some point they'll have to stop worrying about growth and start worrying about people paying paying them to be a business. So that's why I'm, not skeptical, but why these numbers I don't think were inflated to some degree. So anyway, that's what's going on that's what happened in October. I think for the year we'll see a sort of a lot of headline growth in terms of the user base. Nothing explosive, I don't think. We'll see with Off the Grid. That's certainly explosive in terms of being on consoles and being the first blockchain game on consoles and being a very high performance, high graphic game. So it's very different to other blockchain games. I guess we'll see more of that over time, and I'll keep tracking it. Thanks for watching the video. See you again soon.